In this session, we'll be talking about Azure pipelines. Okay. So as you know, in order to do build and deployment or a continuous integration or a continuous delivery, so we require a Azure pipeline, right? Or any CI/CD tool. Azure DevOps pipeline is the solution for Azure Cloud, okay, which is built and developed by Microsoft, okay. So which has a uh, easy integration with our integration with Azure Cloud. Okay, that is the reason it is 99% of the time. If you are using Azure Cloud, right? So you will be using Azure DevOps itself rather than its competitor Jenkins as well, because the integration between Azure DevOps and the Azure Cloud, it is seamlessly, it will happen. Okay, so that is a plus, right? So and compared to other its competitor Jenkins, right? So it has a whole list of services and features inbuilt within the Azure DevOps. Okay, so in this session, what we will talk about is how exactly we code using Azure DevOps pipeline and how exactly uh, we do a build and deployment, a continuous integration and continuous deployment. Okay, what I will be doing is a little bit of a screen, a PPT bit explaining what exactly each component of Azure DevOps it is there, and then few of the demo application, how exactly we need to code it, that I will show it to. I will code it and I'll show it to you guys. Yeah. So coming back to the first bit, so let me erase this. Okay, 1 second. Discard. Okay, so if you see here, uh, our Azure pipeline, right? When we say a pipeline, so pipeline consists of a one or more stages. Okay, so stages, when we say stages, right? So stages is a group of a particular task. Okay, so if you wanted to do a particular deployment, so if I take a one example, okay, so if I take an example of this particular database deployment, okay, so in this particular database deployment, obviously what we will do is we will try to do a deployment of our database inside a virtual machine. Let us take a hypothetical case. Yeah. So if you could see here, what we have is three stages. Okay. So if in order to do uh, in order to build or in order to build and deploy a database inside a virtual machine, so we can segregate in such a way that it can be done in a three different stages. So in this way, logical separation will do it. Okay, so obviously if we are wanted to install it in a virtual machine, meaning it is we need to provision a virtual machine. When we say a provision word, right, it is nothing but creation or how exactly we need to create it. Okay, so when we say provision virtual machine, in order to provision a virtual machine, what we would require is couple of extra bits we need to do it. Okay, for example, that is, so if you could see here, in order to do a virtual machine deployment, so what we require is a a virtual machine sitting over here. Okay, so if I take an example, so here if you could see, this is our virtual machine has been create in this particular place, virtual machine will be created, right? So virtual machine has to have a particular IP address, right? So that is the reason what we do is we make sure that our virtual machine should reside under, before a creation of a virtual machine, we should have a subnet created. Okay, so subnet, how exactly you create it, should be under a virtual network. Okay, and whenever if you wanted to create a virtual network, we require a resource group. Okay, so these all the things we need to do at any cost. So the hierarchy wise, it is you will create a virtual resource group, then virtual network, then subnet, then you will go and create a virtual machine. Okay, so that is the reason what we do is we create our we segregate all the tasks, that is provisioning of a virtual machine, under one stage. Okay, after provision of a virtual machine, we create another stage called as a install db. Okay, so when we say install db, we have a vanilla virtual machine, right? That virtual machine, no software is installed. So our intention, yeah, goal is to install database, right? So that is the reason we segregate the installation of a database in a specific stage. Okay. So, and then obviously we have installed a database, meaning we require our application has a few of the tables over there. Inside that particular tables or triggers or SQL queries, SQL store procedure and all, right, it has to be created, because we installation of a DB, it is a vanilla system, it doesn't have all the tables and all the stuff, right? So obviously we need to create it. That is the reason, in order to develop a team or application team, in order to use this particular table as a prerequisite, tables has to be created. That is the reason we have kept a separate stage. Inside that particular stage, we have we will be executing the creation of the tables. Okay. So as a next part, so if you could see here, the stage, as I explained earlier in the previous diagram, right? You require a subnet, VNet, and a resource group. That is the reason what we do is we are creating a separate virtual network. Okay, so we are segregating our inside our stage. Okay, in pipeline has a one or more stages. One stage can have a more jobs, one or more jobs. Okay, so if you could see here, if we wanted to go through about this particular stage, what we do is sorry, if we take our example, so in first job, what we will do is we will create our virtual network. Okay, in the second job, we will create a subnet. In the third job, we'll go and create a virtual machine. Yeah. So further, if you wanted to drill down the jobs, right? So a job, that is creation of a VNet. Okay, that can be further inside that particular job. There can have a one or more steps. Okay, so in this case, what we'll be having is this particular job called as a create VNet. We will be having one step, or step is nothing but step or slash task is first. What we'll do is we'll get a credentials from a key vault. Okay, that is one step, because in order to interact with the Azure cloud, right, you should have your subscription keys or service principal, those details and all, right? So that bit we will try to keep in a Azure key vault. That we will try to fetch it in a first task. Okay, in the second task, what we will do is we will go and create a resource group. Okay, because if you remember, in order to create a virtual network, resource group should be existing. Okay, so you can ask, what is the resource group? Okay, a resource group is a bucket. Okay, so inside that one, what are all the resources, Azure resources has to be created, right? That we'll try to keep it over here. Okay, so if I take an example here, one second, I will go to my Azure subscription. Okay, so let me take an example. Okay, so the keyword example what I gave here, right? So this is a keyword, Azure keyword. Okay, so this particular keyword, it is residing in resource group called as a K8s. Okay, so if you could see, uh, in this K8's resource group, that is a bucket, right? Inside that particular bucket, we have all these resources present. That is my Kubernetes AKS cluster is running, okay, as well as my container register is also there, and even Azure K Vault is there. This is a resource group for a Kubernetes. So for Kubernetes, what are all the services or Azure resources is required, right? That we have created under this particular resource group. Okay, so you can think of it as a resource group is a, a place where we keep relevant to that particular resource group. All the resources inside that will club as a one group. Okay, that is, it is called as a Azure resource group in Azure world. Okay, so what is the advantage of resource group is, so if you wanted to delete, I mean, think that your project is closed, right? So you wanted to delete it off everything. Okay, so instead of deleting one by one resources, what you could do is directly delete this resource group. If you delete it, all the resources present in the this particular resource group K8s, it will be deleted. If you see, dependent resource to be deleted is 6. All this thing, it will get deleted. So you need not go and one by one you delete it, right? So it makes a bit easy for us to in order to maintain it, okay, maintain and support. As well as what we could do is we can find it out based on which resource groups how much it is costing us, right? So that also costing also you can find it out by the resource group, okay. Think that you in your company, if there are 10 departments are there, right? So 10 department, what you do is we go and create a resource group for a 10 if they are using only one subscription itself, one Azure subscription, okay. If we have a 10 projects running, so in ideal case what we do is, and there is a budget is allocated for each of the projects, okay. If you wanted to find out each project how much it is costing the company, right? So if we create a separate groups for each of these companies, what will happen is, so based on the resource group, we can find out how much they are costing per annum. You can drill it by all the options are available over here. So quarter, last 30 days, how much it costed, month, quarter, year. You can do it all this bit. So then you can cross charge that particular project in order to recover the money. Yeah. So that is on the resource group. So if we go back, okay, so that is the reason we go and create a Azure resource group as a second step. Then after that, what we will do is we will provision meaning is nothing but create vnet, okay. uh, Once this create vnet is done, right, this particular job work is done, okay. Then what we will do is, similarly, our create subnet, we will be having few steps that it will do it. And then create virtual machine, there will be a separate steps will be done as part of this particular job, okay. In this way we segregate the task based on the stages, then jobs, and then steps, okay. So this is on the basic fundamentals of our Azure pipeline, okay. So if I go back to the pipeline, right, so if I take an example, so our Azure pipeline looks like this. So if you could see here, so running a provisioning of a virtual machine, install db, right. So what I have done, what I made here is run SQL queries as dependent on our virtual machine as well as install db. Once this both is done, then only it will run. So ideally it should be a sequence, okay. So for testing purpose I have made like this, okay. So if you could see here, this particular is one stage, okay. So if we remember provisioning virtual machine, right, this provisioning virtual machine is one stage. So if I go back, provisioning virtual machine, right, that is one stage for us, okay. So let me correct this bit, okay, and then we can go and I can see it in show it in a proper pipeline, okay. So let me go back here. Yeah, I've corrected it. Okay, so let me run this bit one by one. Okay, if we go back here, our pipeline is running. So if you could see here, this is what our pipeline looks. Okay, that is first provisioning of a virtual machine. Next is the install DB, and next is a run SQL queries. So that is what this is. This is our stage, right? First stage provisioning of a virtual machine, second is install db, and third is run SQL query, okay. This is what the same thing we have duplicated, okay. So first it will run, it will provision a virtual machine, then it will install a db, after that it will run a SQL query, okay. So in this particular pipeline, it is just a echo world. It is not actually performing any task, okay. It's just a few of the task it is running it, okay. But as a whole, concept wise, in order to understand, right, so this one is a stage in Azure world, okay. If you click on jobs, right, we have these three jobs: provisioning virtual machine, install db, run SQL, okay. So in our case, one stage has one job. For simplicity purpose, I have created like this, okay. So this one box, you can think of Azure pipeline as a train bogies, okay. A stage is a one bogie, okay, or pipeline is a train, okay. In that one bogie is one stage, Okay. So obviously inside the bogie we will be having a compartment, right? So that compartment is nothing but one compartment. It's basically, you can consider it as a one job. Inside that one we will be having, inside the compartment we'll be having a multiple seats, right? The multiple seats are nothing but your tasks. Okay. In this analogy you can relate to it. Okay. So coming back to our pipeline. Okay. So this is what our Azure pipeline looks like. Okay. So inside, what we will do is, now we will go inside the code. Okay. And understand what exactly we have coded it. Okay. So as I explained in the last session, right? So if we go back to the repo, one second, we will go back to the repo. So inside the pipeline, if you click on this bit, right, this is our main repo. Okay. If I click here, inside this particular pipeline we have kept only one Azure pipeline. That's it, nothing is there. Okay. So if I wanted to see it further, okay, so let us maximize it. So if you could see here, we have made our stages. Okay, we have called in the line number 12. So let me enlarge it. So if you could see here, uh, what we have done here is stages. We have called stages. So we have a one stage called as a dev plan, UAT plan. Okay, so we could have named it a little bit better. Okay, so let me correct it. Okay, so let me correct it. So this is our provision of a virtual machine. Let me mention the same name, provision of virtual machine. We have called the name, okay, machine. So then next one is install DB, right? So let me go back. Install DB. Okay, so next we will call run SQL queries, right? Let us call with the proper naming. Okay, we'll commit our code. Once it is committed, so in our case, what we have done is we have added a trigger equals main. Okay, in our pipeline code. So what it does is it is automatically triggers our pipeline. If I go to pipeline, right, I have not run this particular pipeline. Okay, automatically our pipeline has been triggered. If you see our pipeline, it has been run. Okay, there is no human intervention. So why it is because of this particular bit. When we say trigger equals main, right, so any commit to our main branch, automatically our pipeline will be triggered. Okay, this is what it is responsible for in order to trigger our pipelines. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, so what you could do is you can remove it off. Okay, and just say none. Okay, so if I commit now, after this, any commit, whatever I do it, it won't trigger a pipeline at all. Okay. So in order to trigger it, we need to go manually and trigger it. Okay. So this is on the trigger bit. So if I wanted to show you the theory about it, trigger is something that you once you set it up, right, you will pipeline will trigger it out automatically. Okay. So let me choose a different pen. Yeah, trigger is something automatically. So there is no human intervention. Someone will check in automatically. Someone will push the code into repository to the specific branch. Automatically, it will trigger. Okay. So if you want, you can schedule it. That also you can do it. Okay. Or uh, if we have a dependency, right, on one build to another build, another one pipeline to another pipeline. Okay. In that way also we can first 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 pipeline, another pipeline, once it has been built, right, our pipeline has to be triggered. So if there is any dependency, that also you can configure it using triggers. Okay. So the next bit is the pipeline. So as I discussed earlier, a pipeline is a one task. It is a one logical task. Okay, it has to either to do a CD deployment, CD in the sense continuous deployment to dev to production, or continuous integration bit. Okay, that is, you you build the application, you do a static code analysis, or static code analysis, or some automation testing. Okay, so that is as part of a continuous integration you will do it, or provisioning of any infrastructure. In our example, we took a database installation, right? So that is also one kind of a logical pipeline. Okay, so a pipeline is a in Azure DevOps, a pipeline, what it does is it does a multiple stages, multiple jobs, and multiple tasks. It runs it all together. So the single entity is called as a pipeline. Okay. The stage, as I discussed earlier, it has a logical boundary. So within that one, few of the tasks it has to be done. For example, if I go back to our diagram, right? So in our diagram, so if you see if you see here, this is our continuous delivery pipeline. So here what we have done is our pipeline deploy to dev. Okay, that is one stage. This is a logical separation for any microservice you wanted to have a inside a deploy, inside one stage deployment of a dev. You wanted to do that microservice, either Kubernetes deployment, or usually we'll as a microservice we'll do it in using Kubernetes itself. So that deployment onto dev environment, you will do it over here. Okay, so here we will be having a approval gates. Okay, the respective person, once he approves it in Azure pipeline, then the same application will go and deploy to test environment. Okay, that is again another stage. Okay, so once it has been deployed, again there will be a approval gate. So here what will happen is uh, the approval, whoever has the authority, right? You can configure it. So in the coming up session, how exactly we can configure this bit, we will discuss on that. Okay, those all the things we can discuss. We will configure it and we will talk about it. Okay, once it has been approved, right, then that specific microservice will be gone in and deployed to our Azure Kubernetes servers. If you are deploying to Kubernetes service, it will go and sit in a AKS cluster, right? So this is a continuous delivery pipeline. Okay, so as we the stages, right? So when we say a stages, it can be, example is a build stage, okay, QA stage, and production stage. Okay, it can be like that as well, or it can be in our database example. A stage is a different parts of a job: create vnet, install, provision a virtual machine, uh, install a database, or run the queries. Those all, in that way also you can say relevant uh, relevant uh, relevant tasks. Okay, so job is a place where a specific job, right? So what a job does is, we require a job can be run in a agent, in a specific agent. In Azure world, we have a multiple types of agents are available. One is a Microsoft hosted agent, okay, or a self-hosted agent, self-hosted virtual machine scale set agent, and self-hosted uh, agents on a Kubernetes. Okay, you can run an agent on a Kubernetes as well. Okay, you can ask what is agent, right? So agent is a place where whatever the task we give uh, or instruct our pipeline to do, right? Whatever we have written in our pipeline code, that code, it will be executed on a agent in on a agent. So job will be running on a specific agent. Okay, so that you need to remember about it, because what will happen is, if you are having a two different jobs, right? So you have created a artifact in a first job, and you are trying to access it in a second job. You won't be able to do it. Reason being is, there can be a chance, if it is a Microsoft hosted agent, sorry, if it is a Microsoft hosted agent, right, then what will happen? It is simple. You uh, Microsoft, what it will does, it will give you an agent. once the give a agent on a per job basis. Once that job is completed, right, what Microsoft does is it deletes off that particular virtual machine setup. Okay, so meaning whatever you have stored in that particular agent artifacts, right, it will be gone. Okay, if in your second job, if you are trying to access from a specific path, right, you won't be able to do it because it's the second agent. What we got is a new virtual machine itself altogether. Okay, so that is the reason you need to make sure that whatever you are pushing it to creating artifacts, right, you need to push it to artifacts. In Azure DevOps, we have a specific resource or a service called as a artifact. There you need to push it. The same thing in the second job, you can pull it from there. Okay, that is on the job bit. Okay, so next bit is steps or a task. Okay, step is a smallest unit. Okay, inside the job there can be one step or a one task or a multiple task. Okay, it is a you can you can run a shell script, or you can deploy your Helm chart into Kubernetes, or you have a task which runs a PowerShell script or a ARM template or a Terraform apply command itself, right? Uh, for each of the tasks, there is a number of inbuilt tasks are already available. Okay, Microsoft has built it. What we need to use is just copy those code. Okay, if I take an example, right, you see, I added a new bit. Okay, so let us say AKS demo. Okay, so I will say test bed. Okay, so if I wanted to run a specific command, right, so if you could see, what we are running is we are running a kubectl, let us say apply. Okay, so if we wanted to run that, so we need to choose a specific command over here. Just say, let us say Kubernetes apply. So that if you don't want to pick or search this task from over the internet, what you could do is simple go here. Where was it? Yeah, go here, create it. Okay, click on view. Okay, if you copy this bit, uh, you can copy directly here. Okay, one second, copy to clipboard. So if you copy it here, and if you go back here, leave, the code is readily available. Okay, if you don't want to go in that direction. Okay, so let me align it. Okay, so in this way you can add the tasks. This is on the task bit. Okay, so the task, once it has been done, right, so next bit of it is basically the coding bit. Okay, so if we talk about the stages in the coding, right, so if you see here, we have a stages provision virtual machine. Okay, so if you see here the display name. Okay, so I will open it in a different tab. This is the bit we have run it. Okay, so our code, what it says is trigger is none, it won't run it. Okay, the second code bit is pool equals VM image. Okay, this bit is nothing but our virtual machine. Okay, our agent. So if you could see here, our each job, right, it has to run on a agent, as I told you earlier, right, it has to run on an agent. So if you could see here, uh, where is our operating system? So we have told in our code that it has to run on a Ubuntu latest. So if your application is a .NET and you wanted to run on a run your application on a Microsoft Windows OS, right, and you require an agent of a Windows OS, so in that case you need to mention VM image as Microsoft one. Or if you have a Mac requirement, okay, that OS you need to mention it out. In this case, we are using a Ubuntu. Uh, uh, we are doing a little bit of a hello commands. That's it. Okay, that is what we have written it over here. So if you see here on the particular agent, what Azure DevOps pipeline does is when it starts, right, so it initialize first. So Azure pipeline, what it does, okay, in order to run this particular pipeline, in the line number 9, it has mentioned as Ubuntu latest. Okay, meaning this particular operating system, this particular pipeline, These are all the tasks, right? It has to be run on a OS called as a Ubuntu hyphen latest. On the this is a agent, Azure agents OS. Okay, on this all these tasks, it has to be run on this particular agent. So Azure DevOps, what it does is it interacts with the Azure cloud, okay, and asks for a operating system these details. Okay, what Azure cloud does is it provides it a Azure hosted agent with OS type, all this bit details. Okay. Then as a next step, what it does is it does a self checkout. Self checkout meaning this particular pipeline where exactly it has been written, right? It does a checkout, that is on the agent. These all the commands are run in the on the agent itself. Okay. In the agent, we don't have a Azure repo files and all, right? So that is the reason it is a bit difficult. It won't understand which pipeline has to execute it, which all the task it has to understand it. So it will check out the our repository. Once it has been checked out, what it will do is it will run the next command. So in our case, if you see here, bash underscore dev plan 3 is there. Okay. So where exactly it has been mentioned? It is bash underscore dev plan 3. It has been mentioned, right? And its task is to echo, that is print it up. Okay. Uh, echo bet. Okay, that is welcome to dev plan 2. So if you could see here, what it has done is in line number 14, it has printed the same thing. It has just echoed it. So next bit is run one line script. This is a task. Okay, so that bit we have written is here, run one line script. It what it has to done is it has to do a hello world. That's it. Okay, so if you see here line number 14, hello world, it has done it. So next task is run the script in a multi-line. Okay, if you could see here, the difference between line number 22 and line number 25 is it has a pipe symbol. In YAML syntax, what we will do is in order to run multiple commands, right? So what we will mention our Azure DevOps is if we have a pipe symbol against the script, right? So YAML Azure DevOps thinks that this particular code, this there are two commands it has to run. Okay, if I say, let us say, I will say echo welcome to DevOps session. Okay, so now what it will do is it will run three commands. Okay, so if you have any requirement which has to be multiple commands, it has to be run in that particular script, right? In this case, three commands it has to be run. So what we do is we add a pipe symbol. Okay, if once you added a pipe symbol, what it will do is it will run three commands. It will treat it as a three commands. In some, if you don't add this pipe symbol, what Azure DevOps thinks that it has to be run in a single line. Okay, the difference between multi-line commands running and the single line is only this particular pipe symbol. If you mention it in a pipe symbol, it will treat it as a three different commands, else it will consider it as a one command. Okay, so that is about this particular task. Okay, so if you see here, the first stage is started here line number 12 and it is ended in the line number 29, and the second stage has been started over here line number 32. It is for the install db. So what it is, the display name, if you could see here, the display name, it is mentioned as a install db. Okay, so here whatever you are seeing, right, the display name install db, this particular bit, it is mentioned over here. Okay, whatever you mention it here, whatever you mention here, it's on the job, it will display there. Okay, similarly the bash command, we are doing just a echo statement. Okay, uh, in the next command also, what we are doing is simple bash command, simple step we are adding it. Okay, the hierarchy wise, if you see, stage has a, in this case, three stages are present. First stage is this, second stage this, and third stage this. Okay, The job wise, if you could see, under the stage, under the stages, you have a multiple stages: one stage, second stage, third stage. Under this job, we have only one job. This job has a three steps. Okay, think that you wanted to do in our use case, right? So let us say, let us take this example itself. Okay, so create VNet. uh, After create VNet, we need to do a create subnet. Okay, so let us say we wanted to do a create subnet. So what we will do is we'll copy this bit, paste here. Okay, and we'll say create subnet. We'll say create subnet. Okay, we will leave the task as same as is. Okay, only the subnet we have added it. Okay, uh, in this way you can add a new job. Okay, under the job, what it has to be done, right? That you need to call it out. Okay, you need to code it. So let us go and commit it out. Okay, let us go here. So if you see, it has not triggered. The last pipeline run was 28 minutes ago. Okay. So if I click here, if you wanted to run pipeline again, go to here. Okay. All pipelines are mentioned over here. Okay. So our interest is on this particular pipeline. Click on that. Okay. Click here, run pipeline. This is your branch. We have only one branch currently. Okay. On that branch, with that branch, we wanted to run it. Okay. So let us, if you have defined any variables, you can add it over here. You can see it over here. If you have, how many stages we have it. So if you have three stages, you don't want to run all these three, rest other two stages. You wanted to run only these stages. You can select that, and it will run only that. But for the sake of this demo, let us run all the stages. Okay. So I will select it, all the bit. Click on run. Okay. So once you run it, our pipeline will start it out. So if you see here, earlier in our let us open that as well. So if you see here, earlier case we had only one job. Now we have a two job. Under our first stage bogey, we have provision virtual machine as well as create subnet. Install, we haven't changed it. It will be as is, right? So if you click on jobs, you will be able to see all this bit, all the jobs mentioned over here. Okay. So currently it has a dependency. It will wait until once that is completed, then only it will proceed the install job, install db job. Okay. So going forward, what we will do is we will run few of the bits, actual provisioning of it, a provisioning of a AKS cluster using Terraform or and ARM template. Okay, and we will code it, and we will run those type of a pipeline. Okay, even the CI pipeline, CD pipeline, all those things we will be learning about it. Okay, so as I requested, if you guys have any questions, right, you are more than happy to answer, happy to ask. Okay, so what I will do here is I will check the any questions people have asked. Let me go to that. Okay, that I will try to answer it. So if you have any questions, right, you are more than happy to ask, and I'm happy to take up these questions itself. Okay, so let me go back here. Let me open it up. Okay, so if you see here, we have around 8 questions. Okay, all these questions I will try to answer it. Okay, uh, we will go one by one. Okay, what are all the tools apart from this? If you have any more questions as well, right, you can ask me one to one, or put a comment on our YouTube channel, right? We would be able to pick up your questions, and we will be able to answer it. If you have a lot of questions, what I could do is a separate Q&A session itself. We can do that bit. Okay, if there are n number of questions are available. Okay, depending on the question bit itself, I can do a separate session. Okay, so first user has asked, what are the tools required to learn to become a DevOps engineer. Okay, so see, the thing is, in order to become a DevOps engineer, you should have mainly uh, 5 tools. Okay, so as a basic, some Linux command should you should know about it, because we 95% of the time you will be working on Linux based operating system itself. 5% of the time probably on a Microsoft based applications. Okay, but major of the bet on the Linux. So I would suggest to have a go through on the Linux based commands. At least if you can't become an expert, at least have a basic understanding of a Linux commands. Okay, that is first. Then is a next is a Git is a compulsory, and because we are using infra as a code. Okay, third one is a Terraform. Okay, fourth one is if you wanted to learn configuration management tool, Ansible is the best one. Okay, and the fifth one, Kubernetes. Okay, so these are all the 5 things at any cost. One for a one DevOps engineer, these are all the tools it is required at any cost. Okay, so if you think that if you wanted to become a multi-cloud expert, right? So if you know this all these 5, right, the same tools can be applied to the other clouds as well. Okay, I'm a multi-cloud expert. I have worked on all this, but reason being I'm successful because of those. But okay, we are the same. I'm expert on all these tools, so I'm able to work on it. Okay, so the Kubernetes, uh, same Linux command across the cloud. Okay, Git is also same. Okay, next one is our Terraform. If you know Terraform, you can create AWS EC2 as well, Azure Virtual Machine as well, GKE as well, OCI as well, right? So Terraform, you should be knowing about it. Ansible, configuration management. If you know it, it would be helpful. The third one, the last one is Kubernetes. Kubernetes, as I told earlier, we have same thing, right? So let me see it if I have that command. Let me see. Yeah, 1 second. And some other format is there. So if you see here, uh, Kubernetes, right? So if you know the Kubernetes as a whole, the same thing you can apply to AKS, GKE, as well as AKS, as well as OKE. So it is the same thing, same deployment, same application, same microservice deployment. So if you know one Kubernetes, the same thing you can apply to everywhere. A little bit authentication, authorization bit will be differences. It will be there. Say some 10 to 15%, right? But as a whole, Kubernetes, you know it, you should be able to work on the multi-cloud. Okay, that is one part. So next bit is, I hope I have answered this particular question. Okay. The next is, sir, what is the difference between AWS DevOps and Azure DevOps, and which one is DevOps is easier and best? Okay. Again, so if you are working on Azure Cloud, Azure DevOps is the best. If you are working on AWS, then what I would suggest to you is go for a Jenkins, Circle CI. There are many CI/CD tools are there. Okay, that is the advantage of taking a Azure path is you have to learn only Azure DevOps. In AWS side, they have their own DevOps suite tool, but it is not that much popular, or that much feature is not available. Okay, so because I have worked on a multi-cloud, I could say that our Azure is lit for a learner, for a beginner. Azure DevOps and Azure Bit is easier and it's best. Yeah. How long it takes to learn Azure DevOps for an admin role? Okay, please let me know. Okay, how long? Okay, so boss, uh, as it's a DevOps is a it's a process, right? It's a learning process. Okay, I can't say 6 months, 3 months. I would one suggestion: don't go for short courses, or say become a DevOps engineer within 45 days or 2 months, right? That is they're selling dreams. That's it. Okay, because you cannot become. I've been working in IT industry for 19 years. Okay, if you wanted to learn it. In DevOps, a new each day new tool will come into picture. Okay, you should have that learning mindset, right? If you have learning mindset, how exactly it a new tool adaptation, that is what it is required. Okay, it's a process, it's a mindset. How exactly you wanted to do it. I won't say how much time it takes. So if you put 6 months effort, I would say at least you will have a. You don't need to be dependent on someone else. Okay, that is what I would say. Okay, sir, after finishing Azure DevOps 8 weeks course, can I get an entry level DevOps job? Yes, you should be able to do it, because I'm covering in that 8 weeks almost all the software development lifecycle. Okay, we will be building a small a front end, back end, and a database application as well. Okay, we'll be hosting it. We will be deploying it to the Kubernetes cluster. The 5 tools, whatever we have talked about, right? Everything will be doing a hands-on bit. Okay, so yeah. Short answer is yes. Is it possible for IS resources to learn Azure DevOps course, especially in terms of coding? Been following your videos, haven't seen such a clear explanation. Yeah. Uh, yes, anyone can learn it. Okay, so it's bit easy compared to the AWS world. It is you should be able to uh, learn it out. Okay, it is easy. If you follow my videos, right, as a beginner, how exactly you need to Google it out. In that level, I have explained it. Okay, you should be able to do that bit. Okay, anywhere else? Okay, you had asked anywhere else you can find any, but so probably I will post it out. So I hope both the questions are from the same guy. Okay, need a real time projects. Okay, so yes, as part of this bit, I'll be posting the real time application itself. We'll be able to you will be able to add those bit. Okay, learn it. Okay, can you suggest how an experienced person, non-infra, get into DevOps or switch from current domain to DevOps? Tools to start with, area to focus. Okay, tools to start with. In the starting itself, I have explained the file tools. Okay, if you require, there is a in my YouTube channel, you have that the same thing. Little bit. It's a probably a 7 minutes video. You can have a look at it. Okay, it is possible. Okay, a non-infra guy is also able to. I have trained a beginner, a non-IT, or from a commerce or arts background itself. Okay, it is not that much difficult. It's not a rocket science. That is what I would say.